Hi there, welcome to this build of a 60-inch wingspan Avanti patterns plane. Now this isn't a detailed build series, it's more of a build blog, just an update on how the build is going. And we're building this plane from an absolutely fantastic set of plans which you can download off the AutoZone website, and there will be a link in the description below. Well, I've been working on the Avanti for the last couple of days. This is one of those projects that I kind of put aside for a few weeks, do something else, and then come back to. And I quite like working on it like that. But what I've been doing recently is I've got the wings finished and the attachment to the fuselage finished. You can see this is fiberglass now, and it's lovely and smooth, given that a good sanding. Something to do on a nice windy day when you can't go flying. And I've still got the dowels to trim off, I just haven't got round to that. But this wing now fits really nice and snugly with the incidence just right on those wing saddles. So I'm really pleased to get that done, because I just wanted to get on and start working on the fuselage again. Now, if I just hang this up again, and I will show you the attachment point on the back there. You can see there's a plate, and I've got some captive nuts, hopefully you can see that in there, that just holds the wing in place. I've started doing the fuselage since that, and I've put on these pieces here just to extend the turtle deck. I think last time I did this, I actually glued the tailplane on and the fin and then added those. I think that's the order I did it. But it's so much easier to put them on now and sand them. And I think actually I'll probably end up covering the tailplane and fins separately maybe, and then gluing them in place, because it will give a neater job. But we'll see when we come to that. What I'm doing now is I'm working on the front end, on the engine. Got my lovely big Irvine 61 which fits in there, and I've got the bolts sorted, and I've got some captive nuts on a plate that just slide in under there. There's going to be some big cheeks. There's lots of big pieces of balsa to go round on the front here and the bottom to allow us to have enough balsa to trim that down to a really sleek profile. So I'm going to get on now and hopefully get this finished fairly soon, to a stage where I can start profiling it. And just before you start profiling it, it really does look like a big lump of balsa, a big fence post. I'm also checking before I start sealing it up, putting the top on and the bottom on. I'm making sure I've got all the connections for the nose gear and the throttle linkage all working nice and smooth, because once I start covering this, I'm going to lose access and it's going to be a problem. So got to get that right first time. So I will get on now and get this finished, and we'll come back and we'll see how it's looking at a later stage. And just doing this and working on the front here, I must say this, working on the front here really makes me realise what fantastic plans these are, and how detailed they are with this isometric view up here of the nose, and it's just a real joy to work with these plans. Anyway, I'll get on. Well, I'm back working on the Avanti, and I'm slightly embarrassed to say that bit of film that you just watched I recorded 6 months ago. So it's been 6 months since I've done anything on this, and I have built a couple of planes in the meantime, but I'm keen to get on with this now and start to get the fuselage finished. I've got a couple of pieces on the top here which haven't been glued on yet, which just fill in this top section. Before I glue those on, I'm just going to make sure I can remember how the fuel tank goes in and the connections and everything, and just check that out. I've got a plywood 6mm plywood ring that goes on the front there, and then I'm going to start to get this great big chunk of balsa that looks like a fence post profiled into that lovely sleek Avanti shape, and as you can see it really is a solid lump at the moment. Since that last video I've got all of the bottom done, all of the timber in there, and it really is thick and chunky, so it's going to be great fun planing this down. I mean, one of the reasons I have left this is I wanted to do this planing and sanding in the summer when I could take it outside and the dust would go away, and rather than doing it in the winter. So I'll get on with this now and we'll come back and we'll see what this looks like once it's all lovely and sleek. Well, have I been busy on this Avanti? It's a summer now and we've had some really good days to get outside and do all that planing and sanding, and I've really cracked on and I've got this now almost ready to cover, I think. But we'll have a look at what we've done. I mean, the fuselage for a start doesn't look like a fence post anymore. It's looking really nice and it's got that lovely sleek nose that we'd expect from this Avanti patterns plane. There's still a little bit more finishing on this, but I've got the gross shape done. I just need to do the very fine sanding and make sure there's no blips. But that is really nice. I'm really pleased with how it's come out. And the turtle deck, that's all blended in, and I've thinned down the stringers a little bit just to make them look slightly less heavy on the surface, on the covering, but we've still got that strength underneath to make them really really durable and resilient. I've got the engine that fits in there really nicely, and one of the things about the Avanti is that it's nice and sleek on the underside, which means we can't get nuts on the engine bolts that we put in to bolt the engine in. So the way we get around this is we make a plate. I'll just come round, hopefully that's in focus, but that's a brass plate, and what it does is, if I just take out the bolts very quickly. Right, now this brass plate just slots under the engine bearers. We can just put it in and it kind of disappears, really. Disappears in a slot just there, perhaps just see it come out, and we can screw down into that. And we need to make it a plate like this, because if it's just individual nuts they would just spin. But having a good plate, I mean this is 1/4 inch, 6mm is it, brass, so having that plate will stop the nuts from spinning. It'll take a little bit of lining up, but it'll be good, and it'll be a nice solution, so we can get this big chunky Irvine 61 bolted in nice and secure. So I've got the fuselage done. I've also been working on the rear control surfaces and the tailplane, and I've got these really nicely sanded up and profiled as well, just coming down to nice sleek bull noses, really thinning down this fin, and the same with the rudder. I love the design of this Avanti and how nice it looks. It's just a lovely aircraft, and we've got the elevators here, and this is all ready now to start covering. And I'm going to be covering the tailplane, all of these pieces. I'm going to be doing them separately, and then once I've got them done I will be probably hinging them once I've got the covering on, and then once I've got them hinged I will actually clear a bit of the covering material on the tailplane and I will glue the fin in place. I think I'll get a much nicer covering job, much better sealed around the joints here by doing that. And then once we've got this assembly complete, we can glue it onto the back of the fuselage. Now I've got the plug, which in the first video I said I brought back from Thailand from the original Avanti that I made, and as it's exactly the same plane, this plug was great for making a new canopy, and I've made one out of I think it's a 2 litre fizzy drinks bottle, and that's come out really well. It still needs a little bit of trimming, but we've got that all sorted now, and it'll be ready for when we finally set this up and fit it out. So what else? Right, we've got the wing to have a look at. So let me just move this lot and then we'll have a look at the wing. Okay, so I've got the wing here and it's now completely finished and ready to cover. We've got it sanded, profiled, and it feels absolutely lovely, and I'm really pleased with the lines on it. You can see we've got the dowels trimmed, glued in place. We've got a cover on here, and we've got this kind of sort of a fuselage bit that just ties it in with the fuselage put on the bottom there. Now the fiberglass goes under that piece of balsa there. Now you can see here this covering plate which I had to glue the dowels in. The fiberglass isn't continuous across there, so if you're thinking about the strength, don't worry, because I've put in plywood braces in here, and I think I could have got away without the fiberglass. I don't really think the fiberglass was needed because I braced it, but I have fiberglassed it because I want to make 100% sure and get it nice and strong. But the upshot is I'm not too fussed that that little bit there isn't fiberglass, because this is a really strong wing, and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. Now previously we'd got the holes in for the wing servos, but we hadn't got the plates, or I hadn't made the plates, but I have now. So I've done the plates for that, and this is for the left hand wing. So we'll just put that in, and well, no, I won't waste time putting it in, but you can see the plate there will just screw over there and give us a really nice sort of fairly streamlined control horn coming out of the wing that will just a short run to the ailerons. I have the ailerons up there. I won't bother showing you those. They're just plain ailerons that are cleaned up and sanded lovely. Well, we've seen all of the components now nicely shaped and finished, and I think really there's only one thing to be done, and I need to get this together and just mock it up so we can just have a quick look and see how it is. Well, here we are all mocked up, and in my mind this is one of the best looking planes out there. I just absolutely love it. It is so sleek. It's got that lovely 70s kind of retro feel about it. I just absolutely love it. And as I've said numerous times, because the plans are so good and details, it just makes it a real joy to build. Well, you can see now it is ready for me to start covering it. But I'm not going to cover it all. I'm going to be doing the wings and the ailerons. I'm going to be doing the tailplane and the rudder and fin and the elevator. But I'm not going to be doing the fuselage. I'm going to get those surfaces done, and then I'm going to mock this up again with everything, the landing gear on, the engine, even the prop and the servos for the ailerons, the control linkages, and everything that can't be moved. And so that I can get an idea of where the CG is naturally falling, whether it's nose heavy or tail heavy. And if we find it's nose heavy, then when we come to put the servos in, we can move them back. And if I need be, I'm quite happy to put one of the servos under the tailplane for the elevator, because we need to meet the CG, which I'm just looking to see where it is on the plans. Yeah, so we need to meet the CG that's specified on the plans, but I'm not adding any weight to this, not at all. I'm going to move the bits I can, like the battery, the receiver and the servos, so that we can get that. If it's tail heavy, then we'll move stuff forward. But by getting the covering on the wings and the tail assembly, it will give us a better indication of the overall weight balance of this plane. I don't want to put it on the fuselage because I don't want to lose access underneath, because that will still need covering. So anyway, the covering we'll be looking at in the next video, and how we get on with sorting out that balance. So I hope you found this interesting, this sort of gradual bits, stop-start approach to building this Avanti patterns plane. Like I've said in the video previously, or in the very first video, if you want to see a detailed build of this Avanti patterns plane, then have a look in the description below, and there'll be a link to a playlist of a load of videos that I did a few years ago when I built the very first one of these. I said at the beginning of this series that it would probably just be a couple of videos and then the maiden, but I think it's going to stretch out probably to 2 or 3 videos, but we'll see. So anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting.